Welcome back to the Shift Flow. I am Dani.
And I'm Mo.
This is where practical advice intersects with spiritual guidance and so much more.
And we're two light workers who are on a mission to raise the collective consciousness.
Yes, we've created this container to serve as a safe space for us all to have conversations which lead toward your personal liberation, acceptance, and radical love of yourself.
So if you found this podcast, it's by no accident. You've been guided here because there's a part of you who's really ready to stop making excuses and start living the life that you've always imagined.
And you deserve it, and you are worthy of it. So join us here every Thursday. We're so excited to have you.
Yes, and welcome to your new community. So, be here with us and lean into it, and let's get started. Let's get started with checking in. How are you today? What's new? What's coming up for you?
What's coming up for me? I've had a really fast-paced, productive last couple of weeks, and I feel like as we're getting closer to the holidays, we're recording this on the 22nd of December. Yesterday was the winter solstice, which just encompasses a really deep healing energy in general, especially if you're sensitive and you're into tapping into those energies for ceremonial and healing reasons. Yesterday was deep, man. I mean, it's the year with the least, or the day with the least amount of light in the entire year, and historically it's used to process some deeper emotions that were in the darkness or in the shadows, for lack of better terms. And I feel like that's exactly what happened to me last night. There were so many things that surfaced, and there has been an overall triggering energy this week of knowing that you personally, we're on the precipice of this major breakthrough, and we feel it, and it's just not fully here yet. And so in all honesty, that in between, that lull space that we all get in when our manifestations are about to come in, it gets tricky. And I would say there's been a lot of deeper, unhealed aspects of myself that have bubbled to the surface so that I can release those, and then in return that will rocket ship me forward or propel me forward towards that new phase. Does that make sense?
It does. It absolutely does.
What about you? Where are you at?
Yeah, so
I'm happy to be here, don't get me wrong.
Thank you for sharing. Well, and I think that's just the thing. In life, we have to show up all the time, and because we still have things we love to do and want to accomplish. And I think that's what's beautiful about these conversations that we have, is that, we're also living out real lives and not pretending to be perfect, or that fake positive spirituality or positivity. Where it's like, this is how this looks, and so I think it's beautiful. And so, we're about to have a conversation around, health and wellness. So I just want to let you guys know, that. So but before we get there, I'll share a little bit about where I'm at. And we actually had a session yesterday, and, I had a little visit, or I went and visited my inner teenager, and, that was really like, really huge for me. And so it was wild to experience that with you. Also in a time where, we talk about winter solstice and the slowing down, and just realizing the energy of winter and that pace of it, and settling into what that looks like. So talking about just the word surrender comes up for me. And because I do have those masculine energies like knocking at my door of like, hey, you need to do this, and we have some things to accomplish. And so there's I've been feeling a little pulled. And what's interesting about that is when I follow each pull, I'm all over the place. You know what I mean? Right. Rather than just like, what if I just slow down and take this pace a little different and realize that it right now it can't look like what I think it's supposed to look like, and I have to let go of that. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's just, and honestly, that's where I always end up being in life, is something feels off. What does it really mean for me? What is the world trying to tell me it means? How am I trying to process it? And then what is actually the truth of it? So what I'm feeling is very on to something, which is the truth of where I need to really be right now, so that what you talked about, so that when my manifestations are here and they're ready, to be lived in, I'm ready for that, and I can actually fully be present with it. So yeah, I think I'm in a place of, let's let go of the expectation of what I thought this moment in my life is supposed to look like, and lean into whatever the fuck the universe has for me.
Yes. Amen, sister. Amen. I think leaning into that word surrender, right?
Yeah.
That's where I need to be.
Yeah.
That's what all of this is ushering me towards, is the action of surrendering. And I think maybe that's something to really touch on right now, is what is surrendering? What does that mean for you? What does that mean for me? What does that mean as a practice, as a whole? And it means letting go of control. And what is the motivating factor of the desire to control? It's fear.
Yeah.
So what are you fearful of? What am I fearful of? Let's share that. Let's be real. I am a limitless being. Yeah. She is a limitless being. We know how to be limitless in the fact that we look at our fears and we choose to move towards them and befriend them and use them as a power source to push us forward instead of hinder us. It doesn't mean that we're humans without brains and without egos and that we don't experience fear and anxiety. That's not real life.
Yeah.
And so for me, the fears that are presenting to me, just to be fully transparent, is, we kind of talked about it before, like, my spirit is much more ready for that next phase, probably in a year or so, of that real partner.
Yeah.
That real, oh my gosh, I realized in the last year that I wanted children and a family. Yeah. That's a major shift for me. I was the girl my whole life, marriage, kids, gross, right? Like, I'm just gonna party and be hot the rest of my life. And there's no, I also am not attached. I'm not attached to that being, that happening. Yeah. I know the first half or 3 decades of my life, I am supposed to be self-focused. Yeah. But knowing that with that shift, it's like, now I'm building for that future potential. I'm not just building for myself. And the fears that present or have presented, it's like, as soon as you're about to hit a next level monetarily or in your business or with a relationship or whatever it is, the residue of those fears that you haven't fully processed bubble to the surface, and the universe goes, you want to be wealthy? Well, you're still holding on to this in your subconscious. Yeah. So that's what's been happening to me, is like, I'm fearful of not being in that place monetarily where I can't just provide for myself. I can provide for everybody that I love in my life. I want to be just this. I just want to be a money gun. Like, like here's 100, thousands. Everybody gets it. We're all good, right? That would be amazing. Yeah. But the fear that's presenting itself is, am I capable?
Yeah.
Am I capable of hitting that in my own business, with my own voice, with my own mission? And the answer is absolutely yes. But the ego doesn't want to believe that because it's never seen it before.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you, I always loved the Abraham or Esther Hicks. Yeah. I always love how she gives this one example all the time where she says, you can't go to the buffet and see all this amazing food and think, well, I'm going to eat everything I'm ever going to eat right now. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and I love that. And so
Mm.
here's why it makes me think of this conversation with you, because you you are building, and I'm like feeling a sense of like you, like a tinge of maybe perfectionism, and that it needs to be perfectly
100%.
ready before you can bring in this new energy,
Yeah.
before you can have the family and the life that you really want. So
For sure.
how do you feel like yeah, that perfectionism, how do you feel like if you could give yourself, if
Do you
you
see
were
my
coaching
smile?
yourself right now, yeah, what would you say to yourself right now if you were your client?
Mm. You know, this is this is a big one for me
Yeah.
because honestly, I'm just not ready right now. It's
Hmm.
not just about the finances. It's not just about this. It's about not having an extended period of time in my adult life
Yeah.
where I've been fully single,
I
right?
see. Yeah.
So it's not just about I want it to be I want it to be perfect, and
Yeah.
that's something I need to release, is to lean into the fact that I will figure it out. I will always figure it out, and at the end of the day, we aren't in control of the universe, God, whatever you want to call it. Your angels provide you exactly what you need in every given moment, and leaning into that and knowing that it's not going to be on my timeline. I
Yeah.
know that. You know, again, I'm not in control, but there is a part of me that wants to be, and
Yeah.
acknowledge that and love that and understand that that's being human, and also honoring that I know deep within my soul and within my heart, because I'm just coming out of that thing from
Hmm.
Costa Rica. Let's call it the
Yeah.
thing, right? It was
It
a
was a
beautiful
thing.
thing and a miraculous thing, and it was a thing. It was a thing
Yeah.
in many different ways, but I'm not ready because I know that that next person is going to be it.
Yeah.
And I want to spend solo time with myself, building my business, building my brand, knowing that, you know, this solo time, this self exploration time, where I figure out what I really, really, really want, and of my exploring my relationship to myself. And when I'm ready for that relationship, you know, it's going to be from a place where I know in my mind, body, and my soul that I'm ready for a
Yeah.
partnership, and that I'm not just, again, following the lead of a man that's found me in my life.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It totally makes sense. So can I ask you one more question? And I don't know if you want to answer this or
Go
not,
for
because the
it.
person that you're,
I'll answer
the
anything.
energy in your life right now, may be listening to this podcast.
Mhm. Yeah.
Do
Okay.
you feel like you're also feeling some like tension between how amazing this person feels and
Mhm.
your inner knowing of right now wanting to protect your intention of being celibate and or being single? Do you feel like
Yeah.
there's any tension there right now with that? And that,
You know what? No,
oh, that's great.
because
Good.
he has a very similar perspective as I do. We're being very, I mean, we've been talking a lot about what it's going to be like when I see him in a few days, you know,
I bet you
but
have.
and like how much fun we're going to have when we're together.
Yeah,
But as far as putting ourselves too far in the future, he knows that
that's
I'm a
awesome.
nomad and
That is
I
so
want to
great.
travel. And
Yeah.
I am going to put, you know, I'm going to follow my goals of going to multiple different countries in the next year or two.
Hmm.
And we're leaning in to this connection as much as possible and allowing whatever's supposed to happen, because it's almost like there is that short period of time that we're going to be together physically,
Yeah.
that we're like, let's lean in,
Oh, this
let's
is
let it
so hot, by the
unfold,
way.
let's
Like,
not.
I feel the
It's
energy.
so hot. Yeah, it's so hot because, oh, yeah, girl. It's so beautiful because there is that energy of non-attachment. And
Yeah.
I learned that from my previous partner, the energy of non-attachment, the energy of reciprocity. And we just have it
Yeah.
because you don't fully morph the connection into, oh, because we're connected and we feel so strongly and there's this alchemical, like, multi-dimensional thing that's happening here, that I'm going to be like, you're mine and you can't go anywhere. That's
Yeah.
not what
Yeah.
real love
Yeah.
is.
That's control.
So we are so unattached and also so present.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
And we're just going to see how it unfolds. We have no idea what's to come, right?
Yeah.
And I know I'm going to Colombia in a month and ain't nobody can stop me.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel talking through some of that? Do you feel like you have any new revelations through just like processing some of that out loud, or do you feel kind of in the same space?
You know, this was very unexpected.
Yeah.
As it always is, right? I met him the first day the first week that I got back from Costa Rica.
Uh-huh.
We were sitting in ceremony or in a circle at a community that we both go to, a yoga community in Arizona. And I immediately felt his presence when I walked in. And I didn't look at him because I knew he was with a woman. And so I was like, oh, I could already tell. I was like, he's connected to her. I'm not going to be like, you know. And then at the end of yoga, right, I'm like, no, I'm very much respectful of people that are in connection and in relationships. I don't need to overstep by any means. Whatever is meant for me will be for me. And we ended up eye gazing. There was just this pull after yoga. There was like, we both turned and we're like, and we stared at each other in the eyes, which is such a beautiful way to connect deeply with somebody that you don't know. It creates this sense of vulnerability and safety. And it was like being held energetically by somebody that's known me my whole life. Amazing. And not just known me, but like cherished and honored who I was. And we didn't even speak a single word to each other.
Yeah.
And then after we talked, we chatted a little bit. Of course, tears come up when you do that type of exercise. For me, personally. I mean, Cancer Moon, you're a Cancer.
Tears come up for me for all things.
every single emotion, catch a tear. Uh-huh. They should be paid actors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, long story short, he introduced me to his girlfriend at the time, and then we just kind of went our separate ways. And I remember telling my friend Izzy, I was like, another one. You know, there was this thing that happened, but he has a girlfriend, and cheerio, you know, off I go into Utah, from Arizona to Utah. And long story short, he ended up circling back like a month or so later in my DMs. And that week before he messaged, I was getting the Emperor card pulling up in my tarot, and all of these messages that like an earth sign was coming into my life, an Emperor was coming into my life, and then boom. And from there, it's just grown into this really beautiful container of expression and vulnerability and similarity and recognition of each other.
Yeah.
And he actually, this is going to segue into the conversation I want to have today. We were talking this week, and something I expressed about my past, my inner teenager presented itself.
Yeah.
And he guided me through that. He's a coach and a healer as well. And he guided me through that. And I realized that my inner teenager hasn't been acknowledged at all.
Yeah.
And so it's really incredible how this is all unfolding. And then I don't know if anybody knows this because I haven't really spoke on it, but what happens is I work through something in my life, and then it's presented and guided through the conversations with my coaching and Reiki and energy healing clients, almost like my clients have a parallel to my healing.
Yeah.
It's really incredible and really beautiful to witness.
Well, and I actually was able to witness it yesterday.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and you know what's so great is I've never met, but because of your experience with my life has been influenced, and I healed a part of myself because of you meeting
Yeah.
however
Exactly.
many months ago, and you having this experience with him, which was beautiful for me as well. So
Right?
thank you.
Thank
Well, I don't know,
you.
maybe I should
Thanks.
say the name.
I know,
could
I'm like,
beep
maybe he
that
doesn't want, we'll beep that out. We'll beep that out. I don't know if he wants to be, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, that's
But we'll definitely have him on here at some point.
yeah, that would be a blast.
He's a wealth of knowledge, and we guide in very similar ways. So that leads us into the conversation that we want to have today. We want to talk about the passion and the knowledge and the fire that we have in regards to natural healing, alternative healing methods, holistic healing methods for your mind, your body, and your soul. And for me, I really want to talk about a part of my story that I really haven't discussed a lot. I discuss it with people in my life, but it's something that until this week I would avoid because it would bring up so much pain, and it would cause me to feel these unresolved emotions related to my inner teenager, because my inner teenager is the one that went through this.
Yeah.
So when I was about anywhere from 14 to 15 years old, I won't go into all of the details around why and how my parents divorced, but my parents separated when I was about 13, and they tried for a while, and it just didn't work out. And after that, I moved into a house with my mom, and they actually stayed together so that she could get her master's degree. My dad really supported her in that so that she could get a job. And I was a troublemaker, y'all. Like, I was a rebel. Always have been, probably always will, and no longer in the version where I'm hurting people in the process. But, I got into a lot of trouble, and I see it now as I learned really hard lessons at a young age, so that by the time I was an adult, I wasn't getting arrested. You know what I mean? It wasn't on my adult record. But I've always wanted to explore and try new things and do all the things that people told me I shouldn't do. And that also caused a lot of stress on my mom and on my parents in general. They had to bail me out of a lot. And I'm so grateful that they chose to stay by my side.
Yeah.
And it wasn't beautiful always. And the communication wasn't perfect. And there are many things that could have been different. However, I do recognize, looking back through all of my phases and all of my changes and all of my seasons, and being emo and being a skater and being a girly girl and all these things, getting into trouble, getting arrested, they stayed by my side.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I necessarily deserved it at the time. And so I'm really grateful for that. But when they finalized their divorce, and my mom and I were living together, my brother had moved off to college and my dad had moved to a different state, and she couldn't find a job. And again, I was getting into trouble, and it was just one thing after another for her.
Yeah.
And I really do feel like she chose that she didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And I was about 15 years old when she started getting really sick. She started vomiting, like just couldn't keep anything down. And at first we were like, okay, it's the flu, okay, it's this. And then, 1 week turned into 2 weeks, turned into 3 weeks, turned into 4 weeks. And she turned into skin and bones. And witnessing that as a kid, when the dad was already not there, and brother was already away from home as well, just me and her witnessing that. The degeneration of your parent was incredibly difficult. And I want to say before we go deeper into this story that I am sharing this because I want to show people, number one, you are not alone. And number two, being vulnerable is a superpower. And the medicine that comes in sharing your stories and the traumas and the pain that you've been through and how you have made it out on the other side is what is going to heal this planet. And I also believe that if you're in a position like this, I promise you it's going to get better. So keep listening and I'll tell you how. No, it was really painful. And so after about a month to 6 weeks of her just, truly withering away, we decided to go to a specialist, and they did a brain scan on her. And I remember her telling us that, something had come up on the brain scan, and it was either one of two things. Multiple sclerosis, which is an autoimmune condition, or brain tumors. And it ended up originally being diagnosed as MS. And there were moments where she got into remission, and she got a job, and she could go work at JCPenney's. And again, remember, I was 15 years old, so my way of coping was partying, drinking, being boy obsessed, the things that we knew how to do when we were teenagers, right? Yeah. I was in complete and utter denial, and also a very difficult, very dark mental place because of this. And like I said, the original diagnosis was MS. And then time went on. She went into remission, meaning she didn't have symptoms. And then her mom, my grandma, ended up passing. And my grandma had dementia. So the relationship was really rocky when she passed. And that was almost like the straw that broke the camel's back for my mom. She kind of just said, you know what? I mean, unconsciously, right? It felt like, in my perspective, she just was... She gave up. There were many things. There's many things that you can do for autoimmune conditions, for MS, for other things to keep you really healthy and to keep the symptoms at a really almost... It can keep them at bay, essentially. So it's not running your life. Your diagnosis is not running your life, but you are able to keep it under wraps so that you can live a somewhat almost normal life. I know many people that live a normal life with this condition. And then after that happened, her symptoms increased significantly. And this was probably in like a 1.5 year span of the original diagnosis. And they actually re-diagnosed her with something called NMO, neuromyelitis optica, which really, if you don't know what that is, it's a more degenerative form of MS. It's much more intense. And now she lives in a 24-hour care home. She can't walk. She can't really do anything herself. She can, move her hands and speak, and she's there mentally for the most part, but only as much as one can be that's sitting behind screens inside all day, right? With completely inactive. So I'm grateful that she's still alive and she's still there, and we still communicate, and we actually have a much better relationship than we ever did when I was younger. It was really volatile. But this, I say all of this because this is what sparked my passion for finding holistic remedies for yourself. I wanted to be a doctor. I was pre-med when I entered into college. I wanted to be a surgeon. I wanted to be fucking Grey's Anatomy status.
Yeah.
And and seeing that, I still entered into college as pre-med. And then I was introduced to my ex-boyfriend at the time when I was 18. And he started showing me this new way of eating. I mean, I was consuming Taco Bell, pizza,
Yeah.
Subway, honestly not eating all day for the most part. While I was an athlete my whole life, I don't know how I
Wow.
survived. I was a string bean. But I was introduced into a new way of eating.
Mhm.
So we would eat kale salads, like just very nutritious dinners and lunches and breakfasts.
Yeah.
And through that, I started to see my own body heal, my energy come back, my digestion healed, my cystic acne started to go away. So the combination of recognizing that there's something here with the
Yeah.
healing power of food, and also what I witnessed with my mother being brought through the medical system only to be made more and more sick,
Yeah.
that ushered me into, okay, there has to be another way. There has to be another way that we can look at diagnoses, that we can look at symptoms, that we can recognize that a lot of it has to do with the mind. A lot of it has to do with how you're living your life. And there are ways to prevent that. Preventative medicine. I'm like, what can I do in preventative medicine?
Yeah.
And so I changed my degree to nutrition. And then I started getting into yoga. And through yoga and through improving my nutrition, that almost created a whole other spiritual awakening of, there is power
Yeah.
here. So,
Yeah, I was actually just watching Stutz, which is at Jonah Hill. Has a
mhm.
documentary where, have you seen this?
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
familiar.
I just started it, and his therapist talks about life force, and basically
Mm.
what you're talking about
Prana.
is yeah, is that, and he explains it more in like a pyramid. And so you've got your I believe it was body, mind, or no, it was body, people, and then yourself, like how you relate to those things.
Mm.
And how a lot of people, when you are sick, when you are consuming foods that aren't nutritious for you, when you're not getting enough, I mean, really basic things that every doctor always says, but instead it's like, just give me the pill.
Right.
That we don't take care of it. It sounds like you really started from, a place of, oh, this is where the foundation is built to have a healthy life. And then that's what awakened you spiritually, awakened your mind to a
Mm-hmm.
healthy mind. It's like you started with body, went to
Mm-hmm.
spirit and mind, and then the next maybe is how you relate to people in the world around you. Um,
Yeah.
did you feel like when you were having these realizations, was there some pressure and or tension around how you saw the immediate results of the choices that you made and the changes that you made, and what you saw in what your mom was doing? Did you guys have tough conversations? Was that
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that question, because I think this is going to bring up a really beautiful point for a lot of people that are either in a similar circumstance or have been prior. Because once I started discovering all of these things, it's like you strike
Yeah.
gold, right? And you're like,
Yeah.
holy shit, how is
Right.
the world? Yeah. It's like, how is the world not living like this?
Yeah.
This can cure cancer, which we can talk about. This can
Yeah.
cure your mental health. This can cure, and nobody's doing it. And I look like the crazy one.
Yeah.
And there were so many times, and I still to this day know that when I do strike my gold, when I'm already overflowing with abundance and wealth, but when it's just like it's a constant flow and I never have to
Yeah.
worry about it, I know it's in my list of goals to hire somebody that can help her with her nutrition,
Mm.
because
Hmm.
that is something that's also my passion, is how,
Yeah.
for lack of better word, disgusting what they are feeding already sick
Yes.
individuals and children in our education system and at schools. What you
Yeah.
are feeding already sick individuals and individuals that are forming into the healthiest version of themselves, right? They're growing and you're
Yeah.
feeding them this toxicity. And that's a rabbit hole that I definitely go down, and that's a passion I really do have, is somehow getting on a board somewhere someday to change that.
Yeah.
And my mom and I had a lot of really difficult discussions over what she was consuming and how she was still choosing to live her life, and how
Mhm.
honestly it was up to her to do her exercises, and it was up to her to invest in better nutrition, and those things didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I wanted to so badly, when I was in college, to go to Whole Foods or go to these farmers markets and get all of these high quality ingredients so that I could batch cook for her, but I couldn't even afford to do that to myself, to do
Yeah.
that for myself,
Yeah.
right? So I had all of this knowledge, but I didn't have the resources to make it possible to help her heal in that way,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and it sounds like, even this is something that can be frustrating for me. Let me know if this resonates for you and where you were in your journey at
Mm-hmm.
that point when you
Mm-hmm.
have the gold and you're like, I just made this gold and you can make this gold too. And, and so you're like wanting them to do this, and
Yeah.
they don't want it for themselves. That's very hard. And I think earlier you mentioned um, that she kind of gave up on some levels, and she
Yeah.
felt she
I think you do.
she she
Mm-hmm.
she was choosing the role on a level, and this is not me criticizing your mom at all, but she was a victim, and she stayed in that place because honestly we can't, she had a lot of reasons to feel the way she did and was valid in where she in how she felt, so I want to honor her in
I
that way
agree.
and not criticize her. um, she chose to stay in that place, however, which is I think where we're
Yeah.
at in the story. And how do you come to terms with knowing that you have this amazing information to share and
Mm.
she doesn't want it?
That was so difficult for me,
Yeah.
because somewhere along the lines, on an unconscious level, and whoever is listening to this that has also experienced, you're a part of my family, whoever you are, this is
Yeah.
my story, this is my perspective. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's the only truth. We all have our own individual truths. This
Yeah.
is the story through my lens. And it was debilitating at times for me, because I think somewhere along the way, I know somewhere along the way, I had to take the parent role
Yep.
for myself. We had to take care of my mother, and I had to figure out, I still remember having to figure out how to apply for colleges all by myself,
Mm.
and not knowing what the fuck I was doing, and not having anybody there. And I had to step into that hyper independent role at a really, really young age. And in that, I wore my mother's illness as a significant part of my identity. I felt like because I had this knowledge, it was my responsibility to figure out how to heal her. And I lived that for years. And it was really, really difficult. You can't wear somebody else's pain and life experience as your own. It's not yours. It's not yours to carry. My mother's diagnosis is not mine to carry. It's a part of my story. And I can't remember the exact moment. I believe it was when my ex got sick, because my ex had, it's wild. My ex had something where he was sick for almost a year, and he had an autoimmune
Oh,
condition
wow.
related to stress. And so it presented itself again. And I remember going to one of my healers, and she helped me realize that my healing, or my desire to heal and help others, came from a place of fear and a desire to control. Like, I wanted to control his experience. I wanted him to follow the plan that I created for him. I wanted my mom to follow the plan I created for her. And that just put me in a place of stress and dis-ease. And where would I get if I continued in that? I would create disease within myself. And so I had this massive revelation in like 2020 when he was sick, or 2019, that I needed to shift the way that I was helping people, and that I couldn't help them if they weren't willing to help themselves. And it was almost as if I detached from his potential outcomes fully, and I connected that with my mom and detached from that from her, and took that victim mentality of me off of me, of, oh, because she's sick, the world hates me. I had to detach from that as well. Then he started to heal. I detached from his outcomes, and that gave him energetic space to figure it out on his own. There is a really powerful story that I do want to say about his healing, though, because I was getting certified in Reiki level 1 and 2 around the same time that he was really experiencing a lot of significant symptoms and pain. And I remember after my first day of training and after my attunement for level 1, I came home, and it was like around 8:30 at night, and I was like, I just want to practice on you. And it was from a place of detachment to the outcome. I just want to make you feel good. I just want to practice on you. And I practiced on him. And I can't believe I haven't said this story more. It's really miraculous. And this ties into why we really believe in these types of practices for holistic healing. But long story short, I was working on him, and he fell asleep. And I was really focusing on his right side, his right knee, his right big toe, because that's where a majority of his pain was, and his eyes. He was having inflammation in his eyes that could have caused him to go blind.
Oh my God.
And so I was working on him, and about 40 minutes in, he started to fall asleep, and I really focused all of my energy and my attention on his foot and his knee. And he fell asleep. And then after that, I cleared the energy. I did everything I needed to do after doing a Reiki session, and laid down next to him because it really energizes me. Started reading my Reiki book, and he starts talking in his sleep. He goes, I'm ready. And this wasn't an uncommon occurrence for him to talk in his sleep, but he goes, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. And I'm like, you're ready for what? And he would respond and be like, I'm ready. I'm ready. And then he lifted up his right arm, and he said, I'm ready for it to leave my body. I'm ready. And then his arm dropped, and he didn't say anything else. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to bed now. The next morning, I kid you not, he woke up and he said, I had the craziest dream ever, and it felt so real. It felt like this energy, this white energy came over my body and just took all of this sludge out of me. And he woke up almost pain-free.
Wow.
Almost fully pain-free after dealing with this for 12 months.
Oh my gosh.
And he was trying the medications, and he was going in and out of the doctors, and he was doing all of the things. And then one Reiki session, one energy clearing session, alleviated his pain, and he started to heal significantly after that. I also think a part of the magic is, again, detaching from their outcomes. You're not in control of their journey. Yeah. You can only assist.
And I really feel called in this moment to say this. So if you're hearing about energy healing and you're thinking, how does that work? I don't know if I understand that. I think that's completely normal. And because I didn't either. And what's so funny is, when I started to go down the path that I'm going down right now, because for now I am committed for the rest of my life, to shedding my skin all the time, and And so the
like the
first time I
serpent.
had an energy healing session, uh, I thought, I literally have no idea how this works, but I just know, I just believe, I just know it does. I don't know how. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But I believe in, I believe everything is energy, and if that's the case, and I believe there are people who are on this planet to heal, and so if that's the case, and so uh and Dave would say the same thing, and because we both had some amazing experiences, so this is just a little moment to allow yourself to settle into the idea of energy healing as a potential option for you, because
Hmm.
it can be incredible. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, I just wanted to say that real fast. And had he had never experienced energy healing before, right?
never. Mm-mm.
And
And
was he?
that's one of many miraculous stories.
Yeah,
Miracles happen all the time, and the medical industry wants to call it like a spontaneous remission,
yeah,
right? But the truth is, you can heal anything.
yeah,
Anything. I'm talking about the worst diagnosis. You can heal that
yeah,
yourself. Your body, not just with these modalities, but your body is programmed to heal itself.
yeah. Absolutely. And it makes me think, just going back to your mom for a minute, trying to figure out, just the idea of trying to figure out what's wrong with me. That's a word we use a lot when we're not well.
Yeah,
And it's just interesting how almost immediately
we want to
the
identify.
conversation in your own mind, the language that you use is all, I'm going to fight this. I'm going to fix what's wrong with me. I hate what's happening to me. I mean, it's a lot of victim language, and if our bodies are meant to heal themselves, we talk about this all the time. If you're going to sit across from someone on a double date, or on just a date by yourself, I guess, and if you were to talk to them using the same language, you think they'd be attracted to you? What are you calling into your life experience? Are you calling health, wealth, and abundance? Are you calling disease, illness, lack? So I feel like this may be a really good moment to have a conversation around how you learned that in regards
Mm,
to your experience with your mom, and
yeah,
how that really shifted for you, and what that looks like for you today.
yeah, absolutely. There's a few things that I want to acknowledge with this answer. Um, Number one, thinking about a diagnosis, right? Thinking about we have a few symptoms. Let's say you're experiencing joint pain and I don't know, an ache in your heart, right?
Yeah,
Where does your mind go when the symptoms present themselves?
yeah.
Is it worst case scenario?
Mm,
Because a part of us really wants to identify
hmm.
what this is.
An
And
answer.
then when we do, yeah, cancer, right? And then when
Yeah.
we do, what does that tell our mind?
Hmm.
That we have that thing. And with what we're taught with these types of diagnoses is that a lot of them are terminal. A lot of them do get worse. You can't get better. Your body is attacking yourself with autoimmune disorders. There's a lot of putting you as the victim
Yeah,
when it comes to going to a doctor, getting diagnosed because you have a few symptoms that have presented themselves over an X amount of time. And then we attach to that. And then that becomes our identity. And what does that do? It
yeah.
manifests,
Hmm.
right? When it could very well just be like you have a mineral deficiency, you have a nutritional deficiency, you need a little bit of vitamin D or a little bit of magnesium. Here you go. And then a week later, your symptoms have subsided, but you went the Western medical route. They gave you a diagnosis and they told you that this is how you're going to be for the rest of your life, and there's no exit. So you might as well accept it.
Yep.
I'm here to say go in the absolute opposite direction of that. You don't have to accept any diagnosis. You don't have to. Doctors do not know how much longer you have to live. You do. It's a choice. And you can choose to accept specific diagnoses, and there are also diagnoses which are accurate, right? I'm talking about the ones that are inaccurate. I'm talking about the ones that it feels like the way that the medical system has been developed is a way to remove us from our innate power to heal ourselves. And notice how that puts you into fear. And that fear puts you into anxiety, and that anxiety puts you into, how do I identify what's wrong with me? And the other aspect of it, when it comes to my mom and removing that victim mentality from my own story, I had a couple people call me out when I was younger, around 1920. And one of them was my ex, and he said, you're really just like playing the victim to your circumstances, to your life. And I'm so grateful for what he offered and provided for me in the beginning of our relationship, even though that triggered me so deeply.
Yeah.
It was something that I, again, was holding. I was carrying it for such a long time. I was like, this is my life. My mother's sick. I'm miserable because of it. I'm depressed. I have all of these mental health issues because of what I witnessed, and rightfully so. And also, I'm choosing to play victim to my own life. Yeah. And initially, that conversation triggered me. And it also made me curious. Okay, maybe I should look at myself in the mirror a little bit. It's so easy for us to play small. Yeah. It's so easy for us to be like, all of this has happened to me, so I should be depressed and miserable.
Yeah.
But you are not going to find happiness in that place. You are not going to find fulfillment in that place. You are not going to find personal empowerment in that place. You are going to continue to breed more and more darkness and more dread and more misery if you continue to hold on so tightly to the pain of your past. It will drag you down.
Yeah.
And I chose to liberate myself, and it was a process over many years, and I continue to do that. But that isn't who I am. Yeah. I'm not the stories. I'm not the traumas. I'm much more than that, as are you and everybody that's listening.
Yeah, I always like to think about, I absolutely love movies and TV, always have. I'm a little more unplugged than I used to be, for sure. But I always like to think about those stories that you love the most, and there's always a hero, and there's always a villain, and there's always, but it always does start with an injustice has happened. Something changed from your life that was just flowing fine. Everything's going. Wham! It's different. Who's to blame? What's wrong? What are we going to do about it?
Right.
And the hero always has that moment where it's the fact is, things are happening to all of us all the time, right? Your life is going to happen to you all the time. And there are definitely going to be moments that it's like, I feel like a victim in this moment, and this isn't great, but this is your life journey. And so what you're saying is, really what makes you, what decides your future isn't that this thing is happening. It's what you want to do with it. And one thing we know for a fact is, when we've seen those stories where the hero, there's usually a point where the hero goes, I'm going to take this challenge on, or if it was like the gods, and the gods say, this Hercules is your, do you want to take the easy way or the hard way? And the fact is, it's not easy always to make that choice and to go in that other direction. But if you don't, it is maybe easier, but the outcome is worse. It's
you are
almost
choosing
like
a life of your own suffering.
exactly. Like
And
if you
yes, you
look,
are choosing it.
yeah, you look into a crystal ball and it says, what is my future if I make this choice? If I choose to be the victim, what is my future? I will disintegrate into nothingness. If I choose to not be a victim, if I choose to decide, I am not going to be this story, this is not who I am, this is something that is here to teach me this, it may still end up being something that becomes a part of your journey throughout your whole life story. But how do I want to wield this powerful new piece of my life experience and integrate it
Yeah.
into who I am without it becoming everything I am and overcoming me, you know? And so I love that you say that, because I think that's the huge distinction here, is just how powerful your mind is and how much of a choice you do have moving forward to understand what you want that to look like, what you're willing to accept, and what you desire, knowing that you absolutely have more control than you think.
Yeah.
And also how to surrender to those moments that you want control and it's not the right choice.
Right.
So
Everything's a delicate dance, isn't it? It's a delicate
it is.
balance of the yin and the yang, of the surrender and the movement, of the action and the flow. It's this dance. That's all it is. I really look at life as like, your life is your life's work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, your life is a piece of art. You get to take the paintbrush or the pen and create whatever story you want to create. This comes back to truth, right? It's your truth.
Yeah.
I could look back and look at this canvas and paint this dark and dreary and sad picture. But I choose to look at that point in my life as like a crack in the concrete.
Yeah.
You know, and what I did for a long time is I kept drilling at that crack, and that crack kept expanding and expanding and expanding into this dark, empty hole that I would jump into. And it wasn't until I looked myself in the mirror and in my eyes, and I was at that bottom, the bottom of that crack. I was at the bottom of the crack in the concrete, right? I was at rock bottom.
Yeah.
And I said, what do I want to build from here?
Yeah.
And then you start filling it with a little bit of sand, a little bit of soil, you know, a little bit of fertilizer. And then you get to choose what you draw. You get to choose what you paint. And I chose to paint a beautiful flower. And so I look back with gratitude because I learned so much from that pain. It put me on this path of being a healer.
Yeah.
It lit this passionate fire within me that I want to reach the masses and show them how they can heal themselves. Their mind, their body, their spirits. So I get to paint whatever picture I want. And so do you.
And you get to choose the characters that you paint, which is also very important. You know, and I am hearing that there is this voice in my head that is saying how important it is also to, when you are engaging with doctors or other health professionals or those who you choose to heal you, the language you use with them as well. You know,
get curious.
When I for the first time in my life have a primary care provider, and when I found my primary care provider, it was through my gynecologist. And she, you know, she asked me if I had one, and for the first time ever, and I don't know why I said this to her, I said, you know, I just really don't want a doctor who is trying to push pills at me all the time, and somebody who, you know, and I just shared with her what my intention is. And I said, if I had a primary care professional in my life, I would want them to understand that I don't like to take medication if it's not necessary. If there's a way to heal myself holistically, I would like to do that. I want to work out. I want to be healthy. I want to eat
Yeah.
clean. And I don't want the solutions that are going to keep me in a suppressed place of victim mentality, or this is something that's happened. So I shared all that with her. And she recommended, because I was so open with her, she recommended to me my doctor, who is all of that. And so what's beautiful is now I have a place to go, because I was willing to be, I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but toot, you know,
Toot, baby.
and you know, I talked to her the day one.
Yeah.
I went in there and I said, I would really like to take a moment to talk to you about my intention for my life health journey,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
she was so amazing. I think she ended up being in there with me for like an hour, you know,
Wow.
because I slowed down and I said, this is what I want and this is what I don't want. And so if you want to do that, I would like you to be my partner in my health. And I literally said that to her. And you know, you might think to yourself, that's cheesy, wow, cringe, you know, and that's all right. I did
think it's
not give a
beautiful.
flying spook about that. And I just thought, I want to, this is what I want for myself. And so I guess my message in this moment, just from hearing what you said, is that, you know, you not only speak the language to yourself of what you want your life to be, speak it to those around you, speak it to those who engage with you, who, we actually talked about this last week, those people who hate the I hate Mondays, and we're all just getting older, and oh, my bones ache, and yeah, we got to get our backs, you know, our backs aren't quite whatever, I hear my back pop, or whatever those. There's a lot of joking around about declining in health in our culture, and I just also would like you to know that it's so important that you are conscious of that, and you choose the people you surround yourself with, as well as your thoughts. So
Yeah, I agree. And you know what's really coming up for me as you speak on that is like, you are the authority to
Yeah.
your own body.
Yeah.
Nobody else has authority over you. Nobody else has authority over your physical health. Just because somebody might be a little bit more knowledgeable, and this goes for every aspect of life, right? Like, just because somebody is a little bit more knowledgeable in a certain realm of life does not mean they have authority over you and your decisions. And I say this, excuse me, I say this so passionately because I have had traumatic experiences with doctors where they put me, specifically a female doctor, a gynecologist, when I chose to have my abortion when I was 20 years old. I remember her, I was kind of coming out of a twilight, you know, the twilight zone after the procedure, and I remember her saying, you have to get on the books, you have to get on birth control. And I was this terrified little kid, right, that went through a traumatic experience. Yeah. And I was like, what? Like, I personally don't believe in birth control, and we're going to have a segment around that as well. Yeah. But I said, what? And I remember her saying, do you want this to happen again?
Wow.
And I said, no, of course not. Okay, I guess I'll get on the books. And I chose an IUD, and that IUD ended up being expelled by my body 2 years later, and that was a whole other traumatic event and has affected me. And I say all of this because I don't want anybody to be in that position where a doctor is literally like gaslighting you or manipulating you, and it's happened a lot. I'm not the only I'm not the only person that's been through this. They also incite fear. From my experience. And again, you are the authority for your body. You are the authority for your life. You are the authority for your choices. Listen to yourself first. Just because this person has information doesn't mean you can't find that information on the internet or find that information within a holistic doctor that is doing it for the good of you and not for the money that ends up in their bank account later.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love, you know, you just saying that alone, that is so huge, because the fact is doctors are practicing medicine. You know,
Hmm.
at one point in our history, the things that the technology that we have today was never even conceived of, and they were still doing lobotomies every time somebody had
Hmm.
hysteria or whatever, like the fact is we're still practicing medicine. It is a science. We don't have all
Hmm.
the answers yet. And I think that we have right
We
now,
won't.
and have for a long time, uh, a place where doctors feel like they have to go in with 100% certainty. And I believe they are trained this way as well, because they don't want you to feel afraid that they might know for a fact that this is the right thing for you, right? And so I think that there is a little bit, because we're in the hospital with Dave. I even
Hmm.
noticed with them, they did not know what was going on with him. And every time they came in with a confident approach, I saw through it, and it was like, hey, it's okay that you don't have the answer. We're figuring
Right.
this out. But when Dave would ask questions, it felt
Hmm.
like they were very defensive, and he was
Yeah.
just engaging in his health process. And by the way, they were amazing to him, and it was really overall a great experience. What I noticed though in them was the human side of who they are coming up and beating against what they have been told they need to present.
Yeah.
And so I think that's also just something to keep in mind. These are just humans who are practicing medicine, and
Yeah.
with the best intention, and probably think they have to come in there and tell you they know exactly what the hell is going on, and probably they don't all the time.
Hmm.
Now sometimes they do, but it's also important that you're a part of what that decision looks like and what the next step is, and that you fully understand it. And it's
You
okay
know
to surrender
best.
and just trust what they do if that feels right to your heart in that moment.
Hmm.
But also, if you're in that doctor's office and your throat's getting tight, and the truth is getting stuck here and it doesn't ever make it out of your mouth, you know tap into that also. Am I not
Yeah.
saying this because I'm afraid? Am I not saying what's on my heart because I don't know how? Or this person, like you said, this person is
Hmm.
seems like we've elevated them on a pedestal, and they know more than me. They have a higher status, maybe money. You see them and you think they make more money than me. This guy has, everything,
Hmm.
doctor. They have everything they ever could want. And obviously,
Yeah.
we've learned that's not always the case. And so I think that's a huge note too, is to recognize that, your role as your own advocate, and that these are also just humans trying to figure it out. And you're
Don't
allowed
be
to make
afraid to
whatever
ask
choice you need to make,
you. Yeah.
and
Don't
ask
be
whatever
afraid to
questions
ask
you have.
questions.
Yeah.
It's definitely been a journey, but like I said earlier, it's led me to finding so many different ways and different practices and different modalities to apply to your life to heal what symptoms you are already experiencing and to prevent the onset of disease later.
Yeah.
Because we're also in a society that's incredibly sick. The more disconnected from nature, the more connected to technology, the more disconnected from each other, the more connected to our phones, the more disconnected from food that grows from the earth, right? We're living in particularly in the United States, a significantly unhealthy culture. And again, going back to radical concepts, it's radical to prioritize your health,
Yeah.
right? And again, that's also an act of self love. But I say all of this because I myself have experienced extreme anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
panic attacks, joint pain, cystic acne, eating disorders. I have experienced health issues, mind,
Mm-hmm.
body, and spirit. And I have healed myself through improving my nutrition, through investing my dollar in smaller farms, in organic farms, in prioritizing my drinking water, in prioritizing meditation and slowing down in life, prioritizing sitting with myself, journaling, exercising, working out, movement, going outside, getting sunshine, investing in supplements, investing in acupuncturists and healers. And I know it's an investment.
Yeah.
It's a significant investment. Even when I barely had any money in the bank, I would invest in my health.
Yeah.
Because why? Because if you don't invest in your health now, you will invest in illness later.
Yeah.
That's a famous quote by, I don't know, but I know that that's a famous quote. I can't take credit for that one. So invest in your health now, or you will invest in illness later.
Well, and to you who's listening, who's feeling that sinking feeling or that tug at your heart hearing this, if you are feeling like there's a change in your life you know is right for you, and you're not ready to take that next step out of fear because it changes your life, or maybe it changes your routine, or you're not really sure how to do it, it all just feels like a lot of work and you're already stressed out.
Right.
You know, Dani just outlined for you a litany of options on how to get started. You know, those are some ways immediately you can make some changes. Also, listen to what your heart is telling you. Is your heart telling you, I hate the way I eat? I really do. I know the way I eat is bad. I drink pop all the time, or soda, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
I know that when I you know, put my pants on in the morning, I don't like that my pants are tight, or you know, whatever that thing is. And I know those are just physical things. Maybe it's mental, where it's like, I do have a lot of anxiety. I feel overwhelmed a lot. I feel sad. These are all signals from your body. Your body is telling you what is the truth of what's right for you. And when you feel that sinking feeling, that's your inner being. That's your soul saying, hey, we want more. We deserve more. You're meant for more. And so follow that call, even to just one choice. So maybe this is a good time to get into our challenge. What do you think? You want to get our challenge for the week?
Absolutely.
So we want to set for you a challenge this week on one small thing you can do. So no matter where you're at in your physical, spiritual journey as it relates to health, apply it to where you're at. But we'd like to give you a challenge to leave the week. Do you have one in your head right now, or do you need a second to settle in?
Yeah, I think all insights and revelations and epiphanies come when you are with yourself. My challenge for you is, how can you turn down the volume dial on all of the distractions in your life? I was thinking about this the other day. Yes. I feel like when I eliminate the distractions, I turn my phone off, I go sit in silence somewhere, that's when the real me comes through. That's when I get, ooh, you need to work on this. Oh, ooh, this is something that needs to be looked at. So I challenge you this week, if you're somebody that has not even given yourself a minute in your life to sit with you and nothing else, at least a 30-minute time chunk this week to just eliminate all the distractions and sit with yourself and ask yourself a few questions. How am I feeling physically, mentally, and spiritually? And through that, write those answers out. That is your guidance system. That is going to be your North Star on where you need to start changing your life and your habits so that you can heal. And fun fact, you can't heal when you're in fight or flight. Your physical body can only heal when you're in rest and digest. You cannot heal when your nervous system is operating in fight or flight. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you're a mom who's rushing kids around constantly, your schedule's out of control, you don't even have time to eat breakfast in the morning, you know, check in with how you feel about that. I know that your life may seem overwhelming and very stressful and like there aren't any answers. We're not asking you to solve those answers, or those
Mm-mm.
problems. We're not asking you to find that. So just slow down and know that whatever comes up, breathe with it and just allow it to exist before you start
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out how to make your life different, because
Mm-hmm.
that's something I do sometimes. Or something that in the past I have had some
Yeah.
struggles with is like, okay, now I know the problem, let's fix it. It's not a problem, it's the truth. So when you see what's on this paper, don't don't come after yourself or beat yourself up for it not being that way right now. That's what I would like to add to this conversation, because I was actually feeling like awareness is a great first place to start. Very simple
Yeah.
baseline place to start
That
is
is
just
the
awareness.
first step, is awareness.
So
Yeah.
slowing down, like Dani said. And so my challenge to you is once you have that written down on paper, and keep your 30-minute window, keep that protected,
Mhm.
and just sit with it for a minute, and don't try to solve your problems. Don't try to judge why your life is the way it is and you should have started doing this a long time ago. No, it's coming up now for a reason. So
Because you can change it all. But the first
exactly.
step is awareness, and the art of surrender is practiced through acceptance. So please just accept yourself with where you're at. It is nobody's fault that you are in fight or flight. If anything, it's the society that we live in. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. So just like Mo said, don't try to change it and fix it and da 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 da. Just surrender through acceptance of yourself and where you're at.
Yep. And also, now that you found this goal on paper, don't go trying to tell everybody else about it until you figure it out for yourself.
Yes. Yes. This is the journey of self. Keep it protected, keep it close to your heart. It's the reality is we're outnumbered. We aren't this isn't, let's say, this isn't right now the mainstream thought process of health and the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
So keep it close to you. Let this be a journey for you. Let this be something special for you. And once you start applying those changes, or once you start slowly, patiently problem solving, and then seeing the positive implications of your personal changes because of this newfound awareness, then you start influencing people just by radiating a new
Just
energy,
because you
just by
do
being a little bit
it.
happier, a little bit healthier, right?
Yeah.
So keep
Yeah.
it close
It's
to you
so
for now.
true. And just a real quick piece to add to what you said, why I started my fitness journey, my journey into food, is because I saw a girl who lived in the town where I'm from. I've never told her
Mm-hmm.
this, who was posting pictures of her at the gym and having muscles, and really like she was like embodying a different energy. And I was like, oh, what is that? I want that. I've never,
Mm-hmm.
what is. And so I just want to add to what you said. I started my journey because I saw someone else who was living it. And it was that evidence for me, that I could do it too. I knew I could do it too.
Yeah,
If she can do it, I can do it. And so,
right.
so just know that that's your influence, even if that's not your intention, will be there with the people in your life. You don't have to tell them. They're going to want to be like how
Mm-hmm.
you're being, because it will
Yeah,
be undeniable for them,
yeah.
you know? So, do you have, I would love to talk about maybe an intention going into this week. Do you have anything else that you want to add? I feel like we probably should have several parts of the health. This could be multiple conversations, but
Oh,
do you have
this is
anything to,
just scraping the
yeah.
surface. This is just scraping the surface. So, yeah, I want to say with that, to add on to that evidence part, right? I have seen people lose 200 pounds. I have seen myself heal through my panic attacks and my anxiety, completely rewire the programming of my nervous system and how it operated.
Yeah.
I have seen people heal extreme gastrointestinal issues. I have seen a couple together drop 300 pounds. I have seen people that have never meditated in their life become obsessed with the practice and more present and more happy. I have seen miracles, like that story shared earlier with my ex, how he just healed 85% of his pain through just energy work alone. So I want you to know the goals that you have personally for yourself, or where you want to be in the future, are extremely possible. Very, very possible. If you want to lose 200 pounds, you can do it. I've seen it with my clients, many of them. Anything is possible. Please don't sell yourself short. If you are sick, you can heal that. You can become better through these lifestyle modifications. Miracles happen every single day. You have to trust yourself, you have to trust your body, and you have to have faith. Your diagnosis is not a death sentence. It's information. What are you choosing to do with it?
That is so good. I want to say that one more time. That last piece. Your diagnosis is not your death. It's information.
Sentence.
And that information is there for you to say, what do you want to do with it?
Yeah.
That is beautiful. So Dani,
yeah,
how you feeling, girl?
I feel good. Good. I feel like some of those, I think I went off in some tangents a little bit, but I'm feeling good overall.
I loved every second of it. Truly.
Yeah, I really want this message to get out to the world, and I want people to know that there's hope.
Yeah.
I want people to know why I do what I do, and that I've not only seen people at the depths, at rock bottom, but I've been there myself, and I've fully recovered. And the strength in that. There is always a light. There is always a new chapter. So I'm feeling good.
So what is your, what would you say is your intention going into this week with this conversation? Now that you've shared, and thank you for so bravely, opening up and sharing your experiences, because these are heavy topics.
Yeah, I think my intention is just acceptance.
Yeah.
I'm ready for all of my stories to be out there.
Yeah.
I'm ready to fully accept what I've been through and what I've survived. So I think acceptance is my intention.
Yeah. And I just want to celebrate the Dani who got you here to this day too. All the bumps along the way, all the rebellion. I just love that. And I know that because every choice you made led you to this conversation right now that has the potential to reach a lot of people and impact a lot of lives. So I just think I'm so grateful for the Dani who had to go through all of that to get to here.
She is a
My inner
warrior.
teenager wants to hug your inner teenager.
They're hugging right now. They are hugging right now. And it wasn't until that practice this week that I really honored my inner teenager. That I saw how much shame and negative emotion I was putting onto her because of the choices that she made in the circumstances that she had. And I brought her to light this week, and I say this story to honor her and where she was at in life.
Yeah.
And I love her. And I'm fucking proud of her. I'm proud of your inner teenager. And I'm so fucking proud of where we are at now.
Yeah.
It is incredible. And if we have hit this point in our lives at the age that we are, imagine where we're going to continue to go.
Yeah.
Up, 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 up. It only gets better from here. So I healed myself so that I could be a guiding light for others to heal as well. Yeah,
this is the moment. This is it.
It's time.
I think my word for the week will be surrender. It keeps popping in my head, and I'm ready to surrender to the truth of what calls to me with no explanation, with no need for control.
Mm.
and really just breathe into what that means from moment to moment. I think that word is here and it's settling for me. So surrender.
I
Yeah.
feel that. We need that. We
It
need
feels
that right
good.
now. Let's just surrender to where we're at. We know something's coming, so let's enjoy the lack of change while it's here.
Yeah. Well, I am going to surrender. I am going to accept. And going into
Mhm.
this week, so our episode will be coming out after Christmas, but it'll still be on the holiday season. So we're with you. And if you
Mhm.
need anything, I would just like to remind you that we're both here right now. You can book an energy healing session with Dani if that spoke to you. You can book
Mhm.
a one-on-one session or get started in your journey with
Coaching.
Dani and and
Mhm.
and even nutrition coaching. I mean, would you like to speak a little bit about ways they can work with you before we head off for the week?
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of hit the nail on the head a little bit earlier when you were talking about how my journey started with my physical body and then mental and then spiritual. That's exactly what it is, which is why I encompass holistic healing, the mind, the body, and the spirit. I started healing through movement and exercise, which led to nutrition, which led to yoga, which helped me heal my mental health and meditation. And then all of that combined prompted massive spiritual awakenings for me to get into deeper spiritual practices. And that's exactly what I do with my clients is I help them to purify and heal and optimize their physical health, their mental health through subconscious work, through working with their belief system, through meditation and mindfulness practices to find more presence and more peace. And then after those two combined, we go on the journey into spirituality and spiritual practices that help um, support your mental and physical health. And so you can book just a one-to-one coaching session with me through the link in my bio at danielle.limitlessbeing, because I help you to become limitless, at danielle.limitlessbeing on TikTok and Instagram. And if you're like, I'm ready for the 3, 6, or 12-month journey, then message me on one of those platforms and we will get started on that for you.
Amazing. And we will link it all out, by the way. It's linked out if you're watching this on YouTube. It's linked out on our channel on the about section.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also make sure to include all of that in the show notes. And so all the ways to find us and of course to work with Dani. We have other updates coming too. So
We've
be
got
sure
big
to
things coming.
subscribe. And if you're listening to podcast or YouTube, we'll have more updates coming and some things with social media and lots of exciting unveilings to come.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for being a part of this journey with us. This is very exciting for us, and also just fun to be a part of a community that we are intentionally building together to have these conversations and to be around people who it's safe to have these conversations. And it's a give and take, a shift and flow.
A shift and flow, baby. And as you continue on through your week and this information is processing in your mind, let what resonated with you, let what really aligned with you or called to you in this entire episode start to plant some seeds in your mind of the potentials of who you are and where you can go. And as you continue, come back to these messages, come back to these episodes, keep listening, because your subconscious will continue to pick up new information and new ideas.
Absolutely. And share with your friends. That's one thing I found when I have a podcast that I really love and I want to continue to create culture around me and a community around me that believe in the same things. I will share that with other people, and the messages they receive will also teach you because they'll get excited, or maybe someone who's struggling through something and could use this message. This is a really great way to start some of those conversations as well. So I would just encourage you to do that too. So that's how this grows is through those types of really loving invitations.
Yeah. Thank
well,
you all
Dani,
for guiding
anything else before we sign off?
I love you guys. Happy holidays, happy freaking New Year, have fun, be free, and we're excited to continue to connect and grow with you. So,
I couldn't say it better.
All.
Agreed, love.
Signing off.
Signing off.